I got it. Okay.
Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely.
We're going to give
Hello.
another minute for people to come on in.
Okay. I want to give a shout out to Angie. I don't know if you're multitasking or not, but on your email today, um, I don't know if you saw Rich's email, but there it should be a Thursday link, and we just came off of that. I cut it short tonight just so we could jump over here, but it should be a link that goes to Google Meet that pops up for Thursday, and I can resend that link to you if it's.
Yeah, it was a Google link, and I clicked on it. It just says waiting for the for you, and then I think it just said I wasn't the only member in it. So, and it's done it every week. I've tried to get on every week, but it's not, and it's in my calendar, so it's already in my calendar every week. So I click on it and I can't get in.
Yeah, that is strange, but so I apologize that I wasn't able to be Johnny on the spot and trying to solve it tonight.
It's okay.
But we can certainly look at doing that next week just to make sure it is working, or what the heck the hiccup is.
Yeah, I can forward you like what it says, like what the email or in my calendar, what it says, like what the link is. And so you can see it.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty, it's that time. It's 8 o'clock. Deal or no deal time. And we have somebody very special with us today. Kevin Holanda. We're looking at you, bro. This way. Kevin is the man. Kevin's been doing all kinds of deals, from wholesale to creative deals, over 20 deals in all, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
And Kevin is a very special man, full of energy. He is a traveling DJ. He's probably 10 times as fun as I am. I'm the boring engineer. Kevin is the man. So, Kevin, you are going to talk to us today about finding the ARV of a property. Everybody here, we all need it, whether we are just starting out, whether we're fix and flipping or a money lender. We all need to know how much that property is going to be worth once it's done. So before you get started, Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about who is Kevin Holanda and why you are such a special person?
Dude, I am struggling to keep up with that. I mean, I appreciate the kind words, but it's very challenging to receive, for me to receive compliments and kind words. I'm just here. I try my best, and as the good Lord says, do to others as you would want done to you. And sometimes that's a winning scenario because you're transparent, you try to help. And then other times it's not, and you're taking one for the team, I like to say. And what I mean by that is sometimes you lose, but in the long run, it's for the bigger, the greater good, if you will. And not to get in too much of a weeds of a story, but there was a lesson learned in a recent transaction that took place that went from an original wholesale idea of a simple 10 grand to the idea of restructuring and getting creative, that maybe we could get that up to 30 grand. Both fell flat on their face. Then it went to, oh my gosh, let's just sell this thing and as is and be out of it. And that would be roughly 15 grand. That fell through. And at the end of the day, through other trial and efforts, I ended up, and this is over a 2-year period, by the way. This is a 2-year project of helping a seller go to their next chapter. And that was successfly done. So it was, instead of a win-win scenario, it was a half win scenario in favor of the seller. And I'm chalking it up as lessons learned, and lessons that I learned to move forward and not do not make the same mistakes the next time. So, and from that regard, you could call it a win-win, but yeah, just trying to do what's right for the people that we're trying to help. And in some cases you win, some cases you win big, some cases you might break even, in some cases you take one for the team.
So let me just translate what you just said. Kevin said that he wants to do good for other people. He's a humble man who cares about others, and he's a good choice. If you're looking for somebody to do deals with, reach out to Kevin, because he can help you out and he has your interest in mind. I know you wouldn't say that outright because you're a humble man. So I'm just putting it out there. Can you do me a favor, Kevin?
Yes,
Can
sir.
you put into the chat, if anybody wants to do deals with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, I'd love to say I have all the social media answers for you, but it's a very straightforward two-prong approach. You'd think I would have had this all ready to go, just cut and paste, but I didn't.
Oh, no worries at all. While you're doing that, I'm going to put into the chat the links for anybody that wants. Oh, there you are. You got it. So you got your phone number and email address. So anybody that wants to do deals with Kevin, there you are. He's a good man. I'm going to put in here as well the information for if you want to join the Elephant Challenge. If you're not already joined, this is the link that you can go to, and it'll walk you through the process of getting all joined up. As well, if you don't have Privy already, I'm going to copy that link as well and put into the chat so that you can reach out and get Privy and be a part of this Elephant Challenge. With this Elephant Challenge, if you're just starting out, people like Kevin will be able to help you to get deals, and whatever steps you don't know, if you don't know how to thoroughly comp, you don't know how to dispo, you don't know how to find the money to put down for E&B, Kevin can help you out with that. So do deals with Kevin and join the Elephant Challenge. So Kevin, what got you into real estate?
So long ago, I had the opportunity to go to Disney World when it first opened, just after it opened in 1972. And I went in 1974. So it was 2 years old. And I thought, oh my gosh, as I was walking around as an 8-year-old, how cool it would be to own something like this. It never dawned on me that, you know, how real estate worked or anything else. I just thought I would love to have this be my bedroom and have a street-like looking thing like this. And it was just cool. So that's just always been in the back of my mind, something like that, or owning a ballpark or a stadium of some sort. That all of that's always been. But I had a 30+ year career in high-tech consumer electronics, and due to COVID, the company I was working for restructured so they could see light at the end of the tunnel, continuing to move their future forward. And I was on the short end of the stick of that restructuring. And I started real estate just in front of that as a side hustle to offset and kind of bring some sort of sanity to my job, if you will, the W-2 position. And nothing was really happening at that moment. But when the W-2 position dissolved, I had a chance to stay with the company. But I said, you know what, I'm going to jump in the deep end of the pool, cannonball style, and go all in. And that was in June of 2020. Got my first wholesale deal in July of 2020. Then I went a pregnancy period of about 9 months dry, which was a very hard period. But then during that time, I was just sharing this story with Randy, who's on here, I think. There was a lot of lessons learned in terms of being lazy, not being consistent, not being diligent, and getting out of this mindset of I'll do it tomorrow. And which in the W-2 world, sometimes that's an easy thing, and sometimes that works out. It's a part of the business model, if you will. But in jumping in and going that 9 months of dryness and learning those lessons and then applying things and getting dialed in with people like Pace and the Arizona Brady Bunch, if you will, everything started to turn around. So I have a partner, Nate Fugit is his name, and we own Freedom Home Buyers together. We met based on a wholesale deal that I had, and he had a buyer, and we found that we gelled. We both follow God and have similar work ethics and want to help people and do right, you know, so we try to do what we can in terms of following our word and all that. But Ralph, the straight answer on that is the cannonball jump into the pool, because I wanted to be a part of it, and it took a little bit to get to, you know, to get the momentum going. But once it started, and once I understood what the word community meant via sub 2, which I joined the sub 2 group in September of 2020, and yeah, once I understood what that Kool-Aid meant, then everything's been pretty cool.
That's awesome. That in a very short time frame, you really got a grasp. And 20 deals, especially if you had a pregnancy lapse and then you got flowing after that, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it a lot of hardship in there, but if you can see it through, a lot of people will and probably several people here can identify with this. Sometimes you just want to throw in the towel, right? We a month in, 2 months in, but Pace says it all the time, and Jamil, and especially Brent Daniels, you're just one more phone call away. You're just you just never know when that deal is going to happen. But if you keep talking, stay persistent, and stay true to yourself and not try to be anybody. And I've done all those things, so I can speak to it pretty well. And even today, Ralph, you're giving a lot of compliments, and I appreciate that, but I don't know what I don't know. So I still have a lot to learn, still learning forward, making mistakes. And as Pace says, that's what he wants. He wants us all to learn forward by making mistakes.
Yeah.
And I've made some good ones.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get into the subject, which is ARV. Last time we had this deal or no deal, Vincent Lanza helped us with a quick back of napkin analysis of a deal. You find the ARV, you subtract out the profit margin, the costs to the flipper, the rehab cost, and the wholesale fee, and bam, that's what you purchased for. So we're going to take, each week a piece of that and break it down, not back of napkin, but a little bit more in depth. And this week we have the ARV. So are you ready, Kevin, that you can open up your privy and take a property and figure out an ARV? If you like, I can either throw a property in the chat, or if somebody else has a property, and basically take us through how you comp it to develop an ARV. Before we actually do that, Kevin, what does ARV stand for? What are we talking about?
I meant to have some sort of quick-witted response to that, and I never forgot. But it's after repair value.
Yeah, after repair
value. Hey, Ralph. I am not seeing, even under the more part, I'm not seeing how I can share my screen.
Do you see a big green button at the bottom that says share screen?
I'm such a doofus.
Not at all.
It's right there. Oh my gosh.
Well, you're probably colorblind, so it didn't look green to you.
Let's see, where is it? Hmm. I'm hoping it's this one.
Yeah. So just to highlight, after repair value, that's the price tag that the flipper hopes to receive after he repairs it and sells it, the ARV. So that's a very important number. It's the beginning of the equation to see if this is a deal or no deal.
Right, and it's also important to note while that there's, oh my gosh, so many formulas out there that, and Ralph just described one that Vincent talked about. There's a lot of formulas out there, but it's all relative to the particular area. So, and what I mean by that is the area. What's happening in the area? Is there a robust market like Phoenix or Atlanta or someplace in Florida? And I want to be delicate with the Florida comment just because of what they're going through. And we all have probably friends and acquaintances in Florida. And so delicate scenario down there, but it still remains a hot market regardless. The Carolinas, these are all hot markets where the formulas still work, but you're adjusting things to accommodate for that. Whereas in Michigan, where I'm located, the formula has to be adjusted differently because it's not as a robust market. And we are, as Michiganders, we are anxiously awaiting when Pace's stop will be here in Michigan, because he doesn't like the northern states. But I'm sure that he's still going to make a valid effort to join the Sub2 patrons here in his big tour.
Where are you investing right now?
So our team, we work in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. So as far as the Privy Endeavor and what and the Elephant Challenge goes, our markets are Cleveland. And then we, prior to Hurricane Ian, we were starting to outline areas in and around the Tampa market as part of this Elephant Challenge. And by the way, everybody, while the Elephant Challenge has particular dates wrapped around it from month to month, the challenge is every day, right? Staying consistent, identifying the buyers, talking with the realtors, to where when the challenge actually happens and we're making the offers and going for the world record, we're all ready to go. And it's not that we don't get to take a break from challenge to challenge. It's just ongoing. And hopefully everybody gets the bug of what Privy offers and the formulas that it makes it easy to do this, and you move forward. So with that, go ahead.
Can you jump into Cleveland then as one of the places you're investing in, so we can see where a hot market is?
Yeah.
And then find a house that you can go ahead and find the ARV for.
Well, we can do it that way. If anybody in the chat is working Indianapolis or Cleveland, or one of those markets that are attached to the direct LMS via Privy, I'm happy to do it that way too. So it's relevant, if that's okay, Ralph.
Absolutely. So is Cleveland not in here for the MLS?
No, it is. It is.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
If
what I was thinking is, yeah, they can definitely put in their address right now. But I was thinking right now, perhaps, that you can do it from the perspective of, I'm looking for a house. This is the area that we're investing in. Let me just go through the process of zooming into that area, finding a good opportunity, and finding its ARV.
Okay.
Not necessarily the whole the process of, how much it's going to cost to rehab and all that, but in particular, the ARV aspect of it.
Understood. I'm on your.
Hello?
page now. Then on the Cleveland market and, or actually I hit the fix and flip button, which took us to the big bubbles here. And now I'll zoom in on Cleveland. And by the way, everybody, I'm running on cellular internet because our AT&T internet here in the area is down at the moment. So I
Nice.
may be a little slow at times.
So far, not too bad.
As Benson likes to talk, and I'll stay consistent with that, is where is the activity happening? So this is the same thing we're doing. And so you're looking for the bubbles that have the higher numbers. And then depending on how you know the market, you may or may not go to the highest bubble, but you may stay in an area that still has good activity, but you're staying in that area because that's where that might be a better area in terms of housing values. And while it might not be as robust of a number, you might have good housing values and good schools and different things that are taking place that investors like. So that comes with knowing the market. And there's a couple realtors in here, like Angie in the Colorado market, that they tackle it from many different perspectives like that. And but in the spirit of what we're doing here, we'll just go with the big bubbles. And so we have 136, 125, 110, 102. But right here, you have a collage of, if you were to total these up, it's going to total more than what these would total and so forth. So I'm just going to click on the 136. That'll zoom us in. I don't see the circle or the thinking circle going on. So I will hit it again. There it goes. We should go down to the houses now.
It's that cellular, I think.
Yeah. Or everybody in the program is on their privy and we've loaded the server once again. Like,
Right.
all right, I guess I'll just have to scope like this.
Okay, here we go.
All right. So I'm going to come back just a little. We'll get it more where the activity's happening. So here's a cluster, here's a cluster, here's a cluster. Are you able to see my little hand here, Ralph?
Yeah, yeah, we
Okay.
see it moving around.
All right. So I'm going to go up here where this cluster is happening. And we can look at it one of two ways. Here on the left, based on what we see on the screen, this side menu here will be the houses in order of when they were sold. So the top one here, it was sold on 10/5 of 22, then 10/5 of 22, 9/28/22. So in looking at these properties, I want to find one that I like. These are all, this is Shaker Heights, Cleveland. So again, it comes back to knowing the area. I won't get too much in the weeds of that, but the idea is, you know, Cleveland in and of itself is a city that's rebounding, but there's certain areas that are not keeping up, certain areas of Cleveland that are not rebounding as quickly. And then when you get out to the outskirts, like Shaker Heights, East Lake, Strongsville, these different suburbs, where things are happening a little bit more quickly because the houses are newer and the turns have been quicker. But for giggles, I'm going to just choose, I'm going to choose this one just because it looks new. Actually, this looks like a Photoshop thing, but I'm going to choose this one because it's a nice round number of 100,000. It sold in 9/16 of 22. There's a larger picture of it.
Kevin, are you picking one that's sold at this moment to see where the flips are happening? Or what exactly is your strategy at this point in time?
Okay, sorry about that. So, yeah, these are sold properties. So I'm looking at the idea of what's happening now. The more conventional way, which, and I'm sorry, Ralph, I just kind of got into the groove of what I normally do, but the more appropriate area is to find a property that's on market. Or the more appropriate way of doing it is find a property that's on market and then work backwards from there. So how do I get?
There's an X up there in the upper right. You see the 100,000, then a blue eye, and then an X. There you go.
Oh, no, I see that, but
Okay.
I need to get rid of this, the what do you call that? The zoom bar.
Oh,
It's
the
at the
zoom bar is
top.
in your way.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you bring down your browser just a tad below the zoom bar?
Like that.
Well, on my screen it stayed the same, but if you're able to have that visibility, you're trying to find the visibility to do what you need to do, right?
Yeah, I think I'll do it that way. Okay. So I'm gonna start over, just keep it simple. Oh, now I gotta lower it again. Okay. Um,
So
and then- Now I want to find, oh, maybe I gotta move this. There we go. That's what was happening. Wonder why that changed. There we go.
awesome.
Okay. All right, so I don't know, since we lost some time there, I'll just pick this house. So this is our house in the area, 235. Now what we can do is this is an active property. It's been active, listed 1 day ago. So now we have a property that we're looking at. We scroll down and now we have what Privy is automatically doing is showing us all the properties around this one, the subject property, which is in white. And now we have the sold properties, the pending properties, and the other active properties. And also what'll be in here at times as well is a black number, which would be a rental number. And depending on how you have things structured, in terms of what you're looking at, you can turn each of these on and off, just so you're looking at in particular active, sold, pending, and so on, or under contract even. We have one under contract. So we have this property, and then our comps and our ARV at this moment is all centered around this property. We're saying it's 235. But as it relates to it being a deal, or what we can call it, sorry, Let me mute that. And what we can call it is based on this grayed out area, all within a half mile. And in this case, we want to stay, as the phrase goes, we want to stay within the boundaries or away from the main roads. So in this case, this 422 right here, we want to stay south of that. So these other properties you see up here, these won't count in what we're looking at. Scroll down here. Now we have this list. And we can look at this list in a couple of different ways. First, from the sold perspective, we can look at it. We want to find the properties that have been flipped, and this will help us find out if we know that we like this property. We want to find out with these with the solds and with the pendings and with the under contracts, we can use all that information to determine what the comp is going to be, or the ARV, establishing the ARV. Is 235 a good number? So now we're going to check things out. In Privy's case, when you see this two-story, as I like to call it, this means this was a flip property. These are going to be our best types of comps with what the ARV is after repair value. The other sales here, it doesn't mean that they won't contribute, but in its truest form, in terms of how Privy works and how it helps us, is it's working all the formulas on an ongoing basis, meaning on a 24/7 basis, it's plugging into the MLS, what is sold, what have the price changes been, and it's bringing us all up to this market. So we can use all of this information, active, under contract, pending, but the truest form of a comp is one that's been flipped. And the two main points, or the two main ingredients of the algorithm here that Privy uses, is how many days or how many what's the time frame it took to flip this property. And I think their measuring stick on that is 18 months or less. And did it fall under their benchmark of 75% of retail or not? So in this case, if we look at this property, so it pops up right here. It sold on 8/15/22, 19,207 Lamond, 19,207 Lamond. These aren't, none of this information is here until you click on one of these things. So then we can click here and look at it, go further into it. Nice house. And typically you're going to have before and after pictures, which are going, that you have your main tabs right here. Your before and afters are going to be down here. And depending on when the property sold versus how quick the realtor is on taking things off the internet, those before and after pictures, or I should say, taking them off the MLS, those before and after pictures may or may not be here. But typically you can find them, and it gives you a good idea of what's happening. Like, so this house that we picked right here, again, our the property we're looking at is 235. The original property we looked at, that is. And then we're looking at now this one at 280. We come down here, we're looking at this. This was purchased at 70% of the ARV. The ARV is, again, the number that the fix and flip property sold at. So Ralph, help me clarify, please, that a fix and flip property, one that was purchased. Can you see all the way over here to the right?
Yeah,
see
I
construction
can
and
see
all
that.
Okay, good. I got to keep moving things around on my small screen here. I apologize. All right, so a fix and flip property, guys, is and this is not meant to patronize anybody. You know, not saying it from the standpoint that you don't know. I'm just sharing it from the standpoint of how I walk through it and how I understand the fix and flip methodology. So someone buys the property, then they fix the property up. They may have a crew fix it up. They may do it themselves while living in the property. And then again, it may just require a very simple amount of work. It may require a lot of work. So they purchase it, they fix it, then they sell it, which is called the flip. Is that, Ralph, how you interpret it?
And that's what you see there on the screen on the far right, construction, hold time, days on market. That shows you how much time it took them to presumably flip the house. And that's an indicator if it was actually a flip or not. The number one indicator is pictures. You can look at the before and after, and if there's good enough pictures, very quickly and easily tell that it was a flip. But the second way you can tell is by this time on market. If they held it for several years, it wouldn't be a flip. In this case, it looks like about almost 2 years, not quite. So perhaps it was a live-in flip or something like that. They did take a very long time, but that's another way to tell. Typically, your hold time is going to be in the range of 3 months, 5 months, maybe 9 months for a flip. So what do you think, Kevin, with this one, 670-day hold time?
So that's 365, that's shy of the Privy's formula of time to say that it's a flip. But in general, Ralph, I would say that's a little bit long, but at the same time, however, if you minus these 70 days, 600 days worth of construction time, 70 days on market, it is a house that is more a little higher end, if you will. And so that 70 days on market, especially during the summertime, for Cleveland, maybe a little bit on the high side, but I think by and large, it's probably borderline. And the way I would take it a step further, Ralph, and go down here, which probably a lot of people know this trick. But if you, as Benson likes to do, he'll come down here to the property history. And this is where we're now going to identify buyers and sellers. So they purchased it back in 10/16 of 20. This buyer was Josh Stryker and Roy, Deborah Roy. So they could be a couple, they could be a pair in business. But then they turned around and then listed it on 6/6 of 22 for $245. It got bidded up, that's cool, and sold for $280. So our sellers, who are the fix and flippers, again, these could be just independent people, but they may be a buyer, and there's a way to find this out. But they sold it to this couple, Allison and Richard.
It looks like Deborah Roy became Deborah Stryker during the time that they owned the property.
Oh yeah, look at that. That was good eyes.
Maybe that's why it took them so long. They're on their honeymoon.
That's a door open that I'm not going to walk through. We could have some fun with that. Okay. So here's the point, and here's where it leads us into assembling an ARV value, everyone. So right now, the way the numbers work is they purchase this property at 70% of the ARV. The ARV is this number they sold it at, right? If they would have sold it at 300,000, the ARV would have been 300,000. And this is all based on how Privy works. It's the algorithms behind the scenes that run this competitive market analysis, a CMA, for any of these given properties you click on. And you don't need to know any of that detail in the weed stuff. At the end of the day, this price area and this area over here are the two ingredients that you want to pay attention to. And then when it comes to determining your buyers, it's going to be this area down here. So again, this could be a husband-wife team that this was their first flip. And they took their time at it because they did it themselves. That could be very well a good explanation on why it was 670 total days. We don't know that. That's where the conversation comes into play, either calling the realtor and getting the backstory or reaching out directly to the individual saying, hey, this was an awesome house that you guys did. Can you tell me more about it? What was that process like? Did you purchase it for the purpose of flipping it, or was it just pristine when you walked in and you guys just carpet cleaned and called it good? You know, these are open-ended type questions that can peel back the layers of the onion to get to some more of the root answers that are needed to try to help move things forward in terms of what a buyer's looking for, what the seller needs, and so on as it relates to this whole process. So 70% of the ARV. Now we know that Privy sets up the standard out of the box gate, because Benson said so, at 75%. So this is already down below that number. This is a good start for us looking for a property of value a good start for us looking for a property that's going to be in the mix of what we're trying to identify buyers with, and then in identifying the buyers, then looking for properties that fit within this. So let's just say that we identify these guys as a buyer. We know that they buy at 70% of ARV. In this case, it's 280. And then we want to go find open market properties that we can find that would be in that same neighborhood at below 70%. So if we can find buyers or properties that fit the mold, that are at 65% of retail, 69% of the retail, 60% of retail, or the ARV, I should say. I'm sorry about confusing those two. But then now you've created that spread. And working with that number, you can then talk with the agent, the listing agent of that property, and get start that dialogue of what a cash purchase might look like for that property.
And
Now,
just to be clear, when you mentioned of retail versus ARV, if it's going to be sold to a retail buyer, ARV is retail, right? So that's why Kevin used the term retail, because it's basically the same thing on most fix and flips. But if it's going to go to a rental, it's not going to go retail, and that might tweak the ARV because they might not fix it up to the same level if it's going to be a rental versus a retail. Right, Kevin?
right.
So
Okay.
finding the ARV for fix and flips is basically finding the retail price for something that's going to be fixed to the level of a retail buyer.
Now, let's just say that, let's go back to our original property. That was a quick exercise to show something, to show how we can initiate the process. But to Ralph's point, it's about establishing the ARV. So if we're looking at this property that's active, this original property up here in the left that we chose at 235, it's on market. Well, is that a worthwhile number? So we achieve that. We achieve that by taking that step that we just did, and at the same time, looking at all of these around here. In other words, here's 235, but when we look at if we just use these bubbles right here, these dots, real quick, as a quick reference. Ralph, I'm wearing glasses, my readers, and I'm seeing this to be 235 in the white. Does that come across clear on your screen?
Yes, I see it as 235.
Okay. So I got into the weeds a little bit by going over here to this 280 and talking about next steps, so to speak. But off the cuff, we can establish an ARV right here with these bubbles. So this is 235. So equate this, everybody, to your way of,
Kevin?
say, hey, I got this property. Okay, I have this property on Gridley Road, right here, Gridley Road. So picture that seller contacted you, or you reached out because you cold called or whatever, and that seller is on Gridley Road. They have a house and they said, I want 235. I think it'll sell all day for 235. I want 235. Well, now we have to do our due diligence. Is it worth 235? We got to establish an ARV, right? And that's the whole premise of this. So we have all the information we need right here to do that. Now, some of these bubbles we can click on and get some more information. But we know, but off the cuff, we're asking the seller for information. Oh, 235, Mr. Seller. Okay, great. Can you tell me more about the house? Sure. What do you want to know? Well, can you just give me kind of a breakdown? Everybody has their scripts that they're going to follow to get information. But at the end of the day, we got a 4.2, 2,000 square foot house, detached garage, and so on, built in 1942. All right. So now we can, just by looking at which, if you have Privy, you can follow along. But some, everybody's had their habits and methodologies using PropStream or Batch or Freedom or any of these other deals. You typically will get a general picture like this, showing all the properties that have been for sale or have sold or that are on market through third-party resources and so forth. Our closest one right here, 165. Well, right off the bat, oh my gosh, 165, and you want 235? Holy cow, Mr. Seller, are you on crack? What? So we want to look at this. So this is a 3.2, this is a 4.2, this is 1,700 square foot, 1,900 square foot, 1929 built, 1942 built. So we have some discrepancies here that would say that our subject property on Gridley is in much better shape, meaning it was built later, it's a larger footprint, it is a 4.2. Now this one has 2 baths as well, but at the end of the day, everybody's got a different formula that they follow, but typically 10% up or down on the square footage. This one's above that. So this is not a like property that we can use as a comp to establish an ARV. Now, again, the reason why we chose that other property moments ago, the 280,000 property, is because it was a true comp, meaning it was a flip. It fit Privy's records or parameters on why it was discovered as a flip. But in terms of step 1, step 2, step 3, this is step 1. We can see what's happening right off the bat. Oh my gosh, here's a 309. This is 235. Oh, this is a deal. But let's look at this property. It didn't make the flip for some reason. Ooh, all brick. That's nice. It sold at 309,000 back on this year, but this was before all chaos broke loose with the interest rates. So we have to keep that in mind. And if you remember Pace and Brent and Jamil and everybody, we shouldn't even be looking at this because it's more than a month old. Maybe you go back 60 days, best case, but this is just an exercise. So we're looking at everything. But if we take that into account, right, this was all before the interest rates changed in June. So they managed to get a higher dollar. Market today, they'd be going through 2 or 3 price drops before they got possibly offers. I don't know. That's just something I'm saying. Hi. Say hi to everybody. Bye, everybody. There we go. All right, so this was built in 1937, 2000. This is all good. This is all supporting our property being at 235. Maybe we could get more out of this.
Well, if they're listing it for 235, your idea is to find that it's worth a whole lot more, right? If you're going to fix and flip it, it needs to be at 70%, 65%, something lower, right? So
Absolutely.
you're looking to see if there's comps around it that have been fixed and flipped at 30% higher or more. Correct? Kevin?
Yes, 30 fillable room. Can you hear
Sorry,
me?
the internet cut out. I didn't hear what you had to
Oh.
say.
Yes, so when you say 30%, you're talking 30% of available ceiling or headroom, which means that that's giving the fix and flipper or the buy and hold buyer room or margin or equity to work with that
Right.
secures their position.
Yeah. So
So
you're
right.
basically hunting down of the properties around it that have been fixed and flipped. What are they selling for? If they're comparable size, comparable beds and baths, and it's sold within the last 3 months or so, what are they selling at? So you can see what this would sell at after it was fixed and flipped. Correct?
Absolutely. So let's see if we can. Okay, a little more room there. So you can and you have the ability to use the square and just plug or just hit the buttons and get it that way. So right now we don't have a lot in our favor. We have this one in our favor, possibly this one. But now here's the other thing that you want to look at is our subject property is in Shaker Heights. This property we just chose right here, Shaker Heights. If this said Cleveland or Eastlake or Parma Heights or something another subdivision, now you have to take that into consideration, and that could just be across the street. And that across the street can make it, as I think everybody lives in a city where you know that on one side of the street, we don't go to the other side of the street, or you want to stay on this side of the street because the property values are better. This street is the dividing line with the better school system, things like that. So you can kind of see where these numbers get a little higher, where the numbers over here get a little lower. So it could be the possibility that this is now Cleveland over here. I don't know. Let's look at it. Nope, Shaker Heights. So just shifting blocks or going further away or getting closer. It could be up or down. And again, this comes back to you knowing the area. But like Benson says, within Privy, it does the work for you. So that's where here you can do it one at a time. Oh, this is a cluster of higher value properties that we might be able to use. We can click on these one at a time, or as the formula, as Privy does the formula, we can just come down here to the list. So now what we can do is let's look at these properties that are 309, 345, 375, 0.2 miles away, 0.3 miles away, 0.2 miles away. Hey, these are all good. This is relatively close. So if we look at them, oh my gosh, 4.2, ours is 4.2, here's 4.4, 4.3. All built within 10 years of each other. That's good. Oh my gosh, these were sold during the time of the interest rates making a change. So this was sold in July, the interest rate had already changed. This was sold in September, the interest rate is sold, or this sold in August, it closed in September. The interest rates had already changed. The days on market are very respectable. So these are in our favor. What we could do that now, these are outside of the window of being a flip, meaning if they were a flip or met the guidelines that Privy has set forth in the algorithms, this would be a 2-stage, like our friend down here. Where did it go? Right here. This was a flip because it has the 2-story, as I like to call it. Here's another one right here. Here's another one. So these are the true comps, the true flips. This is where it meets the parameters of what Privy set forth. But when we look at them, we can't really use them because this was done back in April. 60 days on market. This was done, let's see, so this was in April. That means it went under contract in March, most likely. That means it was 60 days. So they put this on market in January at some point. This was all well before the interest rate challenges. This went in contract in May, so before the interest rate stuff. So while we can use them to find buyers, they don't necessarily help us on making a case for our comp or making a case for our ARV, because they sold not only at this number, which does support. However, we're in a different time. And as the Arizona Brady Bunch says, we don't need to be looking at properties more than 30, at worst case, 60 days out, because that is a relevant comp. The market has shifted so much. Okay, this is the one we just looked at a minute ago at 280. So this supports us. This is only 0.35 miles away. This supports us. This is the group that bought at 70% retail or ARV. And so this is a supporting comp, and this was done. This sold in 8/15/22. So that means it went under contract in July. So now we have this property and these two properties, although these two properties don't fit the fix and flip model. So while we can use them as a point of reference, now we need to go back to the map and understand what's happening. Gotta jog that. So what I'm going to do is clear out everything except our comps. So we want to get rid of this one and all of these. So this is the bunch over here. So what makes this area so cool? And these all have, let's see, our one true comp is 280. These are all within 0.3 miles of each other, meaning of our friend here. But now let's go one more step, because again, this is a changing market. So these are what's sold recently. Let's check out what's pending. All right, so here's our pendings. 285, 225. Oh, this was a fix and flip. Because again, the 2-story here and 137. So we really don't want to focus on these because they don't support our comp or our focus property, the subject property. 285 does. Wonder what it's about. Let's see, it's a 4.2, 3-car garage. We can't use it. 1997 build year. So that's out. So our pending properties are out. We can't use any of them in terms of support. We have one under contract. It looks like that's 239. So that supports where we are. That's within reason. Similar square footages, 5.2. You can make allowances for 1 bedroom, in my opinion. Everybody has a different opinion on that. And what's cool is while this is roughly almost a 20-year difference, almost a generational difference, ours is newer, so we can look at this favorably as it relates to it's just a supporting. This is older. It sold for more, or it's under contract for more, and this property is all these numbers support our property selling at 235 or having a solid ARV at 235 using this
Kevin,
contract property. Yeah.
One minute, Kevin, if you don't mind. Before we go any further, it's an hour. We're going to go a little bit more, if you don't mind, Kevin, so that we can get to a good stopping point.
Yep.
But I would like to say that, again, there's people here that weren't here when we started. Would you mind, Kevin, entering in your information if they want to do deals with you so that they'll know how to get a hold of you before people might have to take off? I'm going to do the same while Kevin's copying and pasting his. I'm going to grab my link and copy and paste it in. So feel free to go ahead and put yours, Kevin, there, your name, yeah, there you go. Phone number, email. If anybody wants to do deals with Kevin, feel free to call him up, email him, and he can help you through the process so that you can make some money together. I'm going to put in mine too. And just to say what mine is, we're building a team that we're focusing on certain areas that we're dispoing. So if you want to join our team and find properties, put in offers, or act as an acquisition manager, or with your experience level, disposition agent or disposition manager, just click that link and go to the join our team and fill out the form. So going back to what Kevin was explaining, Kevin reduced a lot of the ones that were showing up by noting days on market, because, or I should say, with the sold properties, how long ago it sold, because it needs to be in a time frame that's close to us. If it was sold 6 months ago, the prices have changed. They're not the same. So they need to be within like a 3-month period. Kevin was also checking how much square footage they have, how many beds and baths they have, because it needs to be a similar property. So Kevin is narrowing down anything like he has right now, only 3 sold properties left within that half a mile square. Those are the only 3 that fit within the realm of the time frame, days on market, the square footage, the beds and baths. Anything else is not a comp. And it needs to be a fix and flip property. It needs to be retail ready. So if it's not retail ready, it's not a fix and flip comp. So that's what Kevin's doing is trying to find a property that represents that fix and flip comp. It's retail ready, and it's the similar beds and baths, similar square footage within the last 3 months. Is there anything else, Kevin, that's of particular interest to filter that down, to find that true comp, 1 or 2 true comps?
No, but I do want to point something out, Ralph, that everybody, as we were walking through this, I tend to get wordy, and I just start vomiting words, and I'm talking aloud, and I'm going through the process, right? What Ralph has done is taking all of my 50 minutes, or let's say 40 minutes worth of spinning the hamster wheel of walking through this process, and summed it up in a minute's worth of dissertation to say, these are the steps. So all of us will come up with our own methodologies of how we'll do this. But at the end of the day, the way Ralph just summed it up, it are the steps. So all of this information here is viable information to help us reach the destination of discovering an ARV, or what the true ARV is. And we're going to sum that up here quickly as far as what that number is. But at what you want to do once you have these numbers narrowed down is now you can start to look at them as it relates to what these buyers bought at, and then what this, in comparison, what this property at 235,000 represents as it relates to what they bought at. So in other words, this one true flipper comp that we have here at 280, which fits the mold of square footage, it fits the mold of counts or specifications. It fits the mold of how Privy defines a fix and flip. So this is our number. So in looking at this one true comp, we then go in and see what the buyers bought it at. They bought it at 70% of the ARV, which is what that property sold at, 280,000. So that means that there is a fix and flip buyer out there that's willing to buy something at 70% of the ARV of this number. So maybe this buyer who bought this house would be willing to buy this property, providing that we can get it at 70% of this number. So in other words, we know that this person will buy this property at 280, not at 280, but at 70% of this number. So if we took 70% of that number and moved it over here at 70%,
You're finding a good price to purchase at, as well as what you're doing right now.
right.
Right. So just to stick with the actual ARV, what you've already found one basically that you're saying the ARV is 280, correct?
Yes, however, of the one true comp. Now this of what has been sold.
Yes.
Okay. Now there will be an ongoing debate, but Benson references this when he's talking about things, and that is, and so I always bring up Benson, or I'm going to reference Benson, or reference Laura, or Pace's wife, or Pace, because they'll say the same things in terms of this group over here on a higher number. This could be a great neighborhood. How do we know, doing this virtually, how do we know that this could sell for this? We don't, but that's the next step. We
Yeah.
can establish this as a 280. But in order to ensure that, that's where our boots on the ground come into play. That's where our conversation with the realtor comes into play, talking about, hey, you know, 2 streets over on whatever that word is, Talloway, on Talloway, what's the separation? It seems like the prices go up when you get east of Talloway. Is that more of a country club area over there versus where this property is? And let the realtor then fill in the blanks for you.
Mhm.
So maybe in understanding what they say about this area versus this area, maybe there's a school district line right here. You know, some of this you can find out on your own based on the listing of the property and what they say in the MLS section of advertising.
Yeah. Due to time, Kevin, I'd like to cover one more property. I have one on my screen, if you wouldn't mind me sharing the screen.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. As well, Sheila mentioned in the chat, how do you estimate repair costs? Do you need a contract before purchasing? So Sheila, we're going to cover repair costs in a different week. Today, we're focusing on ARV. And I don't want to go beyond that process because I want to make sure everyone understands how to do ARV. And then in another week, very soon, perhaps next week, we're going to cover estimating repair costs. And then as far as a contract before purchasing, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Yes, you do need a contract to be able to purchase. I might not understand that question, but we'll cover repair costs in the upcoming weeks, perhaps next week. So now I'm going to share my screen.
Hey, Ralph.
Yes.
Just real quick, I just want to point out something, just to finish this and put a finite point on it.
Yes.
Everybody, this was a contracted property at 239. This property, and this was a flip property, is a flip property. It's contracted, it hasn't closed yet, which is different than a pending one. 280 was a flip property. So what I would do in terms of what the true ARV is I would just triangulate and take 239, 280, total them together, average them out, and that would be the ARV that I would be shooting for this
Okay.
area and for this property.
To help account for the differences in neighborhoods.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just to put a point on it, that's where I would end up with this, and that's where I was going. And again, I tend to vomit when I'm working on things, so I appreciate everybody's patience on that, especially yours, Ralph.
No, we appreciate your help, Kevin, really. You did a great job. I'm going to show my screen now. This is a similar property in the Cleveland area. So I did the same steps Kevin did. I zoomed in an area. I found areas that they're fix and flipping, and then found a good property that looks like it might be a potential for a fix and flip. Just looking at it, you can tell it needs a little work. It's not going to get its full value as it is. So this is a potential. Then I scroll down here to look at the comparables. So these are the other properties that are within that half-mile square that might be comps. First thing I'm going to do is cut out everything on the other side of major roads. So everything above this line, we don't need to look at at all. And then I'm going to keep everything else within that over to this, because this is another major road. So this becomes my area that I'm dealing with. I don't even want to look at anything across a major road. So looking down here, there's a lot of properties that we'd have to filter through. There's 34 investor properties right now. So in order to figure out, to filter this list down, what I like to do, and like Kevin said, everyone's method is a little bit different. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and filter out anything that is sold more than 3 months ago, because the prices have changed, so they're of no value. So I'm just going to go quickly and get them off of the radar, off of the map, because I don't want them to confuse me and what I'm looking at. So I'm just Xing them out until we get to the ones that are within the 3-month period. So this 3 months back is July, is that correct?
Yes, September, August, July.
There we go. So now I'm only showing properties that are within the last 3 months. So the next thing I'm going to do is filter by the build date, because this is a 1924 house. So I don't need to look at anything that's very recent. So build era is kind of what you want to look at. And the further you go back, the greater the span of a build era. So when you're dealing with a 1924 house, you know, this is like 40 years newer. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of this because it's still quite a distance. Now we're getting into a range that where we have a similar build date. And then I'm going to go over to the square footage. We have a 1,272 square foot. So 1,100 is close. 1,400 is close. All these are fairly close. Now, another thing I'm going to do just to filter out junk is the dollar per square foot. Because if we're looking to fix and flip, we know that something that's $32 a square foot has not been fixed and flipped. There's no way that someone did a fix and flip and sold it for $32 a square foot. So I'm just going to sort by dollars per square foot. And again, get rid of some of the junk, because this, I don't even want to look, I don't want to waste my time with stuff that is not a fix and flip. So now I'm narrowing down to some maybes, some potentials. I don't want to take this down too far. Although I know $83 and $84 is probably not a fix and flip. This is telling me this one here might have been a fix and flip, and that was only $98 a square foot. So I don't want to get too close to that 98 without, you know, once I take stuff off the screen, it's hard to get it back unless you just reset it. So I'm leaving that for now. And now what I'm going to do is to filter out again, this is a 3-1. So I'm going to sort by beds and baths. Anything that's a 2-1 doesn't comp. A 2-1 is not a comp to a 3-1. So I'm going to get rid of the 2-1. Down here we have a 4-1 and another 4-1. Can they change this into a 4-1? Well, the square footage, this one is a little bit bigger than this, but not that much. It's only like $50 or 50 square feet bigger. So I've narrowed it down to a very tiny subset here of our original set. So what I would do at this point is go look up here and see there's a lot of activity around us. The ones that, if I still have this many, I might filter it down a little bit tighter to try to make it the perfect match. But what I'll do is I'll look at these and at the eye, and it'll show me, especially the before and after. You do a previous sell means it's probably not a fix and flip because of the time frame. So you can see here that they held on to it for like 3 years, although it does look very nice. So it is a potential that this was, well, I can see it's a lived in. So it's a retail. They just made it real nice. But then I would go and look at the next one. I know this one here was presumably fix and flipped. So I'm going to look at that one and the before and the after. Just looking at the photo, I can tell that whoever took this photo knew a little bit more of what they're doing than this one. Was it a fix and flip? Maybe. Looking at the dates, this was April and this is September. That's like 5 months. So I can tell very quickly that this is a potential fix and flip. And they flagged it as a fix and flip because it was at 68% ARV and they upgraded it to, you know, within that 5 month time frame. So that's a potential as a comp. So looking at these square footages, I can see several at 120, 130. This one's at 98. I want to narrow this down even tighter to get an exact match. So I'm not going to look at these that are way out, especially across the 130. So what I'm going to do next is take my distance and cut out the ones that are further out, like that one and that one and that one and that one. So now I've got a very small subset to look at, and very quickly I like to do it by square foot. Like Kevin says, there's a lot of ways to skin this cat. So 122 per square foot, 98, 103, 84. 84 is the lowest. I'm going to take a peek at that one and see what's going on with that. Could that be a rehab? Perhaps, but definitely not a fancy one. So this was, it was 5 years that they held it. So it's not a bad property, but it's not really a rehab property, which is why probably the dollar per square foot was lower. So I'm just going to delete that one out. So now I'm looking at the range of this, and just to give a quick ballpark, because in the early stage of the game, before you do all the investigation that Kevin was talking about, talking to the realtor, checking out the property, to ballpark this ARV, you want to narrow it down to an approximate price point. So these are 1,300, 1,400, 1,200. We're at 1,300. These average prices are at about 98, 103, 122. If you want to ballpark it, you could say 100. You could say 105, 110 in that range. I'm going to call it 110. No, 105. So if I take my calculator and I multiply 1272, some people don't like to do this. They just want to pick a number that represents what's already out there. I like to do the square footage multiplier. So I'll take 105 times 1272, and that gives me an ARV of 134,000. So that would be my methodology of coming up with an ARV, is filtering it down and then finding the dollar per square foot and multiplying it by square feet to get that 135,000 value of ARV. Is it a deal? We don't know yet. There's other things involved, but that's the first stage, is just to see what is the ARV of this property. So if we're at $83,000 right now, I'm going to throw up my calc just to see where we're at. I'm going to take 83 divided by the 130, 135. So that's about 61%. So that's the way I would calculate it. Everyone's got their own way, and there's flexibility depending on how your mind analyzes things. But any comments from your side, Kevin, that you would have done differently from what I had accomplished there?
No, what's unique about, or what's great about the way you did it is the fact that it's specific. While both ways were data driven, you were able to use the filters to get down to a more nitty gritty or granular level on a quicker way than the methodology that I was roaming with. But yeah, I wouldn't change anything there. What I really liked the simple detail or the detail that you use to allow it to be or come across as a simple process. That's the way I wanted to say it.
Yeah, and when you're at a level that you're really analyzing the potential of a property, because maybe you're negotiating already, you've talked to the agent, and you're trying to narrow it down really tight, you might want to put more time into it. But if you're at the initial stage where you're just trying to see if you even want to talk to the agent, is this worth pursuing? The first step is to come up with a quick and dirty ARV. Something that you don't spend a long time on, but within a few minutes, you can come up with a number and kind of get a feel of this property and then do your reach out. Does that sound right, Kevin?
Absolutely. And when you do have, whether it's, you do the quick and dirty, or you take a little bit more time and get a little bit more granular with it. The fact that you did that, and then when you're talking with the realtor or the buyer and you're able to tell the story or talk more intelligently about what you're doing and what your goals are, that builds credibility and that builds rapport, and allows that conversation to continue versus the realtor just stumping us with a question or them coming back with, well, why don't you just put something together and get it over to me when you can? You know, that's their way of a polite brush off. You know, you're not bringing anything to the table for me. But you doing your homework, like how Ralph outlined and what we've talked about tonight, goes a long way, because the realtor knows how much goes into something like this. And by the way, everything that Ralph just did here, a realtor would take a long time to do it, because the MLS doesn't have all the formulas already built in. They would have to go and do this property by property, step by step, spreadsheet by spreadsheet. And as Benson says, he would spend 2-3 hours doing one property like this. And, you know, Ralph and I did 2 properties within the hour, and he did it in a shorter amount of time than I did. So it goes a long way just to utilize the software the way it was intended to be used, and it will go a long way with your conversations with the realtors.
Kevin, do you have time that if somebody wants to throw a property in here, does anybody want to throw a property in? And would you have time, Kevin, to give them a quick ARV on it?
Oh my gosh, I would love to.
So anybody want to throw a property out there, Kevin can comp it real quick for you.
You know, Ralph, what's cool is I like this get together that you've put together, because it's, you know, if you announced that Pace was going to be in here tonight, all of a sudden it's 500 people, right? And then, and while that's a benefit and a bonus and everybody would love it and Pace would go nuts, not everybody's independent questions or time or method properties. I mean, Pace would do his very best to get to everything, but this more tight, intimate group where we can take the time and try to be of assistance and value. So I applaud you for putting this together.
Thanks, man. It's teamwork. We're all here to help each other. Melissa has her hand raised. Melissa, do you have a property? Oh, here we are. She just put it in the chat. 112 12th Avenue, Patterson, New Jersey.
Hi, guys. Thank you for doing this.
Hey, Melissa. Glad to have
Hey.
you with.
Oh,
Yeah, I missed you. I missed you a couple of times before, but I made it my business to get in here tonight.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, appreciate you. So this is an interest of mine because it's literally my local market. It's a neighbor, and she's an elder who is about 45 years owner of the property. And I had a conversation with her yesterday. So I'm actually honing in on it now. And so it'd be great to see what the comps would look like. And if not here, then I probably will have to take a deeper dive with contacting an agent and seeing if they can find something on the MLS.
All right, so
Yeah, it's not disclosure in New Jersey, so it's probably not shown in the comps for it.
You mean in the MLS?
Yes.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be on market or be disclosed to find the comp. We just have to find a property around it that makes sense. You know, if we don't have the MLS data, we won't see certain things like the photos for the fix and flip properties, but we can still find a comp through Privy and through other methods to be able to see what this property would be worth after fixed and flipped. Very similar to the way we did with on market data. We don't have to have that data to be able to find a comparable in the ARV.
Okay.
Yeah, and if nothing else, it's like what Ralph was saying. It's a quick reference, and certainly you can dig deeper, and that's where then the conversations with the realtors come into play of getting their local spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
But all I've done here is this little white dot here is the property. And then we have the sold properties around. And to me, and looking at this, I'm not going to take any of these guys on the outliers here, because there's no reason for us to go outside of these areas, because we have everything we need right here. Now, some of these are higher numbers, lower numbers. But then that's where we can get into how Ralph was doing things and how we were doing things earlier regarding looking at the likeness of the properties. So, and what's very interesting is there's 31 sold properties and there's 5 active properties, and the 5 active properties are all down here. So this is just simple observation, Melissa, and it would be like this is the more desirable area. However, how we change that or get a better handle on that is just using our graphs down here. So just getting organized like Ralph did it, we can find out what's happening on a date range, and we'll get rid of everything else, and that'll narrow things down. So
Yes.
let's see, July. So we're gonna.
And so you're starting with the time frame of last sold?
Yeah, with the most recent solds, because everything before July is irrelevant. Prices have changed, interest rates are changed, and what buyers are, both retail investor buyers are all looking at it differently now. So we have to look at it the same way. And in this particular case, and this is quite telling in my opinion, the last property sold in this general area was 8/2 of 22. That means it went in under contract before July 4th of 2022. So this area has been very impacted by the market change.
Oh,
Properties.
yeah, it has. I'm sitting in an epicenter of change. There's a lot of change happening.
So now if we look at what's left and we come up here. So now all of those properties that sold in the beginning of the year when the selling market was remained in a very robust way before the interest rates changed. Those are all gone now. So now we have this one, 475. Is that 475? Yeah, 476. If we come down here and look for 476 or 475, that was back in 7/20/22. What's this one? So that's good. This is too much. This is okay. This is okay. This is all right. This is all right. This is too much. Get rid of this one. So our 5 active properties are all down here. So there's something about these neighborhoods, Wrigley Park, maybe all of this is Wrigley Park. But across this road and at, what is that, Addison or
Mm,
Madison Avenue?
Madison.
Yeah. So there's nothing happening up here. So that means one of two things. One is based on everything that's impacted the marketplace, everybody up here's decided not to sell, or they've taken down their properties.
Mhm.
Or this is more of a, this area here is more of a, an area that people are trying to get out of. And
Okay.
and these prices would be would somewhat show that, but we would need to see. Let's just look at that. Yeah, so all of these are, oh, especially this one, 120 days on market. There's
Mhm.
something going on with that property. These are all running average. This one's a flip. But we won't have the final number on that until it sells to understand exactly how that flip benefited anything.
Okay.
If we go back to the solds that we have here in our property here, 475, where'd that go? Right here. So now you could do this one of two ways. And once I get done going this way, we'll come back and try it. We'll have Ralph chime in with the square footage ambition and see how close we are. But this one here at $150,065, you know, it's kind of like how they do the Olympic scores. You take all your scores of all the judges that you have, and the high judge and the low judge are removed, and now you have your average. You have your 5 remaining scores that average out to your main score. So we're going to take away this low guy, and now we're working with our high people here. So our 475 remains. Just gonna, they sold in 720. I'm gonna compare it to this one. So we'll just look at both of them real quick. And that's not too much of an exciting picture, but let's go down here and see what, holy cow, that's a lot of properties. Patterson Fulton LLC, the buyer was 24 Holdings LLC. That was a quick turn. Something doesn't make sense there.
Yeah, I'm
LLC.
actually probably,
What?
That might have been like a double close or something.
yeah, somebody who is
or a
buying,
wholesale.
he's definitely a very aggressive investor in this
Yeah. Looks like he wholetailed it.
particular county.
Yeah. You know these people, you said,
Mhm.
Melissa?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's an investor. He's been buying up everything in this particular zip code and in this particular county for the last I want to say 8 years now. So it's almost everything is being bought and fixed and flipped.
Oh, doggone it. I just did what you said that it makes it hard, Ralph.
Yeah.
I hit the wrong icon. That's nice. Okay, get rid of that one. And that was one I really wanted to look at. 490. So you could do one of three things here. Because this one was at 475. You could average these out to come up with the ARV, or because of the market shifting, the one other rule of thought is after you narrow it down like this, and we're missing one, and I can't remember what that number was, but I want to say it was higher than 350. But one other school of thought is take the lowest one of the identified comps and use that one and get below it.
Okay.
In terms of I keep wearing both sides of the hat in terms of trying to sell the property too. So 350,
Right.
350 then would be the would be a number to work with. So you could
Start
plug into
there.
an ARV being between 350 and 475 and work your numbers from both angles. Because here's the reason why. If you work at it from the 350 number and it looks good and you're able to tell the story, and that just means that your higher number is going to be that much better. But if
Got it. That makes sense.
if you can work with the low number, and that's your grocery store number, meaning what your buyers are going to want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Now you work it backwards to get your ingredients or tell the story of how to get there and what the profits are and so forth. Because if they come in, this is what's great about it. You've told the story of how this number, the low number works. They come in and much like Ralph and I have talked about different ways to skin the cat, they come in and have a more liberal process with their numbers and they go, oh my gosh, this is such a great deal. I think this area is worth 450, 475. This is awesome. Okay. Josh, okay, you're telling me it's awesome. You say the numbers work. How much are you going to give for it? Oh, well, I'll do 375. Well, now you know you can go lock up that deal at 350 and have a $25,000 spread. Now I'm coming across making it sound simple, but if you do the homework on the numbers and you have your buyer in mind, you know their buy box, you know what they're looking for, you know what their cap rates are, you know where the profit margins are and so forth. Kind of like what happened when Vincent was here 3 weeks ago and he was talking about those things.
Right.
If you can make that work off the low number, knowing that there's higher properties out there, here's what's cool is because we got another point, percentage point raise in the interest rates, and another one coming in 2023. So as those points go up, as interest rates go up, but people's buying power goes down. So you're taking that into account now. And you're
right.
able to tell a story and help that buyer understand that this is totally them. This fits their.
And Kevin, I want to highlight something that you said.
Sure.
Something very important. Kevin mentioned going with a lower number as opposed to the highest number. That's very valuable to your potential buyers, whoever's going to fix and flip, because what is very common in the industry is for them to put an inflated ARV and a deflated amount to repair it. So they basically create this very large cushion of profit that's not really there. And when they start seeing that from you, then you're going to go into their spam box. But if you do it like Kevin is saying, that you give a legitimate or a conservative ARV and the same thing for the repair, then they're going to recognize your honesty and they're going to want to look at your deals more than the other guy that's always showing inflated numbers.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sorry to interrupt, Kevin, but I just wanted to make sure
Specifically-
that point was highlighted.
Yeah. That's a
Melissa,
great point.
what curiosities or deer in headlights effects just took place between what Ralph and I said? Anything? Can we clarify further for you?
I guess right now, it all makes kind of a lot of sense to me because of the changes that the market is going through. And that may have a lot to do with why so many people are selling, because, you know, they're watching, you know, how the interest rates are rising. So I am more concerned with how to match and connect my buyers to the opportunities. So I think I'm pretty squared on it. It's just drilling down on, you know, making the right decision. And you guys cleared that up for me, because I think that was the only area that I was concerned about when it came down to, like, what should I focus on as far as with the deer in the headlights go. Like, what should I focus on? Should I focus on the bed and bath, you know, being apples to apples, you know, oranges to oranges, or should I focus on the time frame, you know, of when the last properties, what the activities were of the last sold properties, you know? So you guys helped me kind of narrow it down to what I should actually put more time on and use less time doing this, because it's really important to kind of like be able to like zoom in, you know, and make a good decision on what comparables there are. And if I'm not sure, then I think it's safe for me to, because I have consulted with quite a few real estate investors, agents. So if I'm not sure of something, then I'll probably just get like some extra help with it, or another opinion on it. But for the most part, this is pretty self-explanatory, just seeing you guys go through it. So
Kevin,
thank you so
Do you mind
much.
if I show my screen real quick, Kevin?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to show, you know, I was doing the same thing as Kevin while he was talking. One thing I did different is I clicked the all activity. It is harder when you're in an area that's non-disclosure, because you can't see all the details. You can't see beds and baths. You know, there's stuff that's just hidden. And when you go look at the images, you can't tell if the images are, you know, if they're really fix and flips or not. So what I did is I took the addresses and I Googled them and opened them up in different platforms like Zillow to see if it was a fix and flip, a nice property, or if it, you know, if it perhaps wasn't. So of the
Okay.
three that I narrowed down to, the one that looked like it was potentially a fix and flip was, or at least in retail status, was this one on 1003 12th Ave. So coming back over to here, I'm looking at that one and I'm seeing 226 per square foot. And again, you know, Kevin's method was slightly different. I like the square foot method. But you know, this property is a little bit smaller than our property. It came in at 450. You could also just kind of up it a little bit for its less square footage, or you could go with one of these down here. You know, these are closer to the size of our property. They're at 490, 475. So, you know, 475 is kind of where I'm looking at for where we're at on that property.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I was thinking that when I did it myself, that's where I landed. I actually landed between the 475 down to as low as 430. And this,
Yeah.
but this was like a little more than like a month or two ago. I'm just revisiting this property because again, I had a conversation with the owner. So that's why when you guys offered, I just wanted to see what changes, what numbers were in activity for the other comparables. Because that house is actually a she described it as a 5-bedroom on each floor, first and second floor. And then the attic is also an additional 5 bedrooms. And I'm like, that is a huge house. And then
Yeah.
she said that it's a full basement. And it also has, I don't think she said it's finished or anything, but I think one day she'll allow for me, to take a walk around to see. And then I can have a little bit more scope and then maybe compare it according to the numbers, and how to, how to decide to position in order to propose an offer.
Yeah. So we're running out of time. I'm going to do one last comp. This is one that
Thank you,
Alex-
guys.
oh, you're welcome. We're very happy to help. Alex Williams, he put in here 206 November Street, Garner, North Carolina. Hey, Alex.
Hey,
Alex
what's
is my
going on?
Alex is my partner, by the way. We're the ones that are doing the fatjuicydeals.com. And if you want to join our team, that would be awesome. But here is the property Alex wanted to take a look at. So, just taking a look at it, you can see that it's definitely in need of some help. So scrolling down to the comps, we see nothing, barren, right? So when you run across something that's barren, one thing to remember is there's a couple of things. Number one, if you're trying to find deals for fix and flippers, they are looking for, you want to look for deals that others are fixing and flipping in. So if others are not fixing and flipping in those areas, it may not be the best choice to go after. That said, we're going to take a look at this and we're going to take all activity instead of just what it initially showed us, because there might be stuff within this region that it didn't show up with previous algorithm to find matches, but the all data can find stuff that it didn't find otherwise. So the first thing I'm going to do is narrow this down again by main streets. I don't want anything on the other side of this highway. So I'm just going to take this little subset of data right here and then come down here. And you're welcome to talk, Alex, anytime you want.
Yeah, no, that's good. I just picked this one just because of that reason. It didn't show any comps there. So I wanted everybody on the call to see something a little bit different when they just can't find comps right on that square screen.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to filter again by sold date. I'm going to sort it and just get rid of the stuff that was sold more than 3 months ago, because we don't want that to mess us up in the price tag. Now we're down to 3. There's only 3 within the last 3 months. Then looking at the square footage, this one is much larger. So I'm going to get rid of this one here. And I'm left with, this one is about the same. This one is significantly larger. Of course, this is not a 0 bedroom, so that data is just incorrect. This looks like it might be a comp. Even though it's larger, we need enough data to be able to give us a fairly solid comp. So looking at these 2 properties, we have one here and one over here. We also have 3 under contract. I'm going to do a quick look at those to see if there's something we need to 2008 is definitely too new because we're at a 73, not the same build era. Oop. So I'm going to get rid of that one. And then looking at the square footage, these could definitely be the case. This looks like it was actually a flip. As Kevin said, it's got the 2-story. So I'm going to take a peek at that one. And that one is actually right next door to it. They're both on November Street. So that's a bonus because it's right there by the property. And it's a 3-2. Ours is a 3.3, so we're very similar. So looking at this property, it looks like it definitely could have been a fix and flip. So I'm going to go down to this before and after. I can see the difference between the two. You know, this is definitely a better marketed picture. May to now, this is this looks like a fix and flip. So I would call that the best comp out there, even though it's under contract, it's not sold. It's a fix and flip, which is what we're looking for. So this one is at 264 a square foot, very similar in size, is a little bit bigger, 325. So, I would say that our price tag, our ARV for our subject property is going to be, we're a little bit smaller, so around 300K, not much of a difference. If I go over to the sold properties, this was about 264 per square foot. The actual sold ones were lower, but if I take a look at them, I'm going to guess that they weren't a fix and flip. Taking a look at this property, 2017 to 2022, they held it for 5 years. It looks pretty decent. It looks like they actually fixed it up nicely. So, could this be a fix and flip? Retail ready is really what we're looking at, not necessarily that they fixed and flipped it within a few months, but is it retail ready? I can also take a look at this one. This was 227 per square foot. This one, on the other hand, no, there's no indication that this was a fix and flip, so I'm just going to get rid of that one. So now I'm left with this sold property at 227 and the under contract at 264. If you want to go down the middle, you're looking at somewhere around 245-ish. So if I take my calculator and I take the square footage of 1,004 times what I say, 245.
Yeah, you're gonna come out to about 245.
Yeah, so that gives me a 246. I would call the ARV 246.
Yep.
So right now, it's kind of ironic that the price tag they want is 289 when the actual ARV is significantly less than the current price tag. So I would automatically call this a no deal simply because the ARV is way lower than the actual unfixed price tag.
Well, notice too on that, Ralph, that on 810, into the days on market, they cut it 10 grand. So they started out even higher.
Yeah, they cut it 10 grand from there as well. And then I was when we talked to them, I just wanted to see how far they would actually go down. So I chopped it off another 30 grand and they thought about it. So yeah, I knew it was too high from the beginning, but I wanted people to see this that are on the call. Just to kind of get a quick and dirty estimate. So you're not sitting here all day trying to figure if it's a deal or not, especially when you don't have all those comps around you. And then for them to see the all activity button work.
Yes, thank you very much for that.
Mhm.
So, you can see 245 after repair value, you're looking at getting this deal much, much lower than that. I don't want to get into figuring out the repairs right now in this call, but you can tell that, you'd have to get it significantly lower than 245, like 70, or 70 is a starting point, but this would require more than that. So maybe even half of 245. So, you're looking at like 130-ish of where you need to be, but it's at 289. So.
Yep.
Kevin, anything you want to contribute to that?
No, I would, while it's easy to get wrapped up into the repairs, just like it is on comps, sometimes as Benson says, sometimes it's just, and Ralph, you do a good example of how Benson talks about the data, and it's about the data. So while we can get wrapped up into the weeds of why this or why that, Ralph just heads right to the data, and the data tells tells the story. Now that same data tells us that, you know, the buyers who are our customers, they're willing to buy it 70% of the ARV or 60% of the ARV or 50%, whatever that number is. All we have to do then is find our searches or set up our searches accordingly and work on those properties. And this type of property here, where obviously a lot of work needs to be done, then that's going to fall outside of that normal search. Or even though it falls outside of that normal search, it's a property that that buyer is still going to take a look at because it's well below the ARV number. And now you just got to understand where those guys want to be, which is where the repairs come into play. But how the Elephant Challenge promotes itself, as well as how the I'll call it the preview method, the reverse engineering of the sale promotes itself, is we don't have to worry about the repair values, because the data tells us that this buyer is willing to buy at 70% of ARV. And as long as we can find a property that's at 65 or 60 or 68 or 69, as a lot of times Benson will find, will do this 1% or 2% or 3% lower. That creates your spread. And because you have the ammunition of what the seller is, or what the buyer is willing to buy, all you have to do is come under that, and you have a deal. And then that deal is all backed up by the story you can tell about the area, about the ARV, about the pricing, and like Ralph was saying about being conservative with a number. It comes across to the buyer. You're thinking of them and you're thinking of what their needs are. And as a result, that's where that rapport building takes a leap forward or a leap higher in your favor, to where you're going to be doing more deals with them. And all you need then is 2-3 buyers like that in your pocket. And if you're treating them like that consistently, you probably don't have to worry anymore about having that right buyer.
Yeah, you're basically functioning as an extension. You're their marketing extension. When you're out there finding these deals, you're their marketing piece. So you want to think like them. You want to represent them as you're talking to agents. That's the mindset you need to have when you're looking at the properties. So when you're looking at the ARV, you want to think like they would think about ARV. When you're thinking about repairs, think about how they would think about repairs. That way you're truly, you know, you're working for them. Is what you're doing as a wholesaler. You're working for the buyers. All right, well, we went 2 hours instead of 1 hour.
Well, this is awesome.
Yeah, this is good though.
Thank you, everybody.
I hope the people enjoyed it.
So one more time, Kevin, if you want to put in the chat your contact information. I'm going to put mine, and I'm also going to put the information for Friday. Pace is having, let me stop the share. Pace is having an all-day event Friday. So everybody's invited, and he's going to go over information for our changing market and how we can make deals happen. So if you have opportunity, of course, Friday, it's an all-day event. You may not be able to make the whole thing, but try to get in there and see what, you know, what time frames you can contribute. You can be there and enjoy that. Hold on one second. I'm going to copy first my link if you want to join our team. And also, here's the link for Pace's all-day event. So thank you very much, Kevin. Really appreciate your help in